Hello, listeners. Hope you are having a wonderful week so far. I have a fun one for you this week. I interviewed content creator and recent cookbook author Jeremy Scheck. You may recognize him from his TikTok food page with over 2 million followers or his popular food blog, Scheck Eats. His first and newest cookbook, Scheck Eats, Cooking Smarter, Friendly Recipes with a Side of Science, drops today, October 31st. So, of course, we did a deep dive into the inspiration for the book. Plus, we got into the spirit of Halloween in a fun Smash or Pass game towards the end. So please make sure to listen and join me in welcoming Jeremy Scheck.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hi, and welcome to the Livvin for Food pod. I'm glad I could see you. I haven't seen you in like a year. I don't know if you remember, but
Yeah, it was the Newell Foods. Was that?
yeah.
Each other?
It was the dog food event, and then I think I ran into you at the New York Times Food Festival too.
Oh yeah,
And I harassed you for a quote.
yeah. But it wasn't quite harassing. It's nice to see you. Yeah.
You too. I believe I know I interviewed you over the phone. This was a while ago though, back in, I want to say 2022, maybe in the spring or the summer. But I was looking back at that interview and you had mentioned your cookbook and how the deal had literally just been finalized when we were talking at that interview, and now you're officially coming out with it, which is super exciting. Or at least when this podcast comes out, it'll be out.
Yeah, it's been a long time in the making. I had the idea 5 years ago, and I've been actively working on it for 2 years. So, yeah, and a month from now is when it actually comes out. So
That's crazy. Wow, 5 years in the making. You must be like so excited to finally have it a tangible thing to look at and send out into the world.
yeah, it's definitely like a lot of emotions. I'm excited to get it, and I'm actually supposed to get like the 40 copies that I get today. So
Oh, yay. So you're going to give that to kind of friends and family kind of thing?
yeah,
I love that.
yeah.
Amazing. So before we dive into the details of the book, I want to talk about your background a little bit. I was actually reading through your introduction in the book, and I learned so much about your background. So I want to ask you questions about that. You attended a Spanish immersion elementary school, and then later on majored in 2 foreign languages in college. With this interest, what did food look like culturally for you growing up?
Yeah, well, I was really lucky to go to an immersion elementary school, as you mentioned. It was a
Mm-hmm.
public magnet school, so it was a lottery to get in, but other than regular taxes, like it was completely free. And I had teachers, the most amazing teachers from all over Latin America and some from Spain as well.
Wow.
And my first 2 teachers were Puerto Rican and Mexican, and then I had a Salvadoran teacher and then another Mexican teacher. Those were in elementary school. And then I had a lot of teachers from Spain in middle school. But it was a very diverse elementary school, and we had kind of multicultural nights where people would bring in food. We also did this thing in like 2nd grade where my teacher kind of like put on a restaurant, like a Mexican restaurant in the classroom, which was really fun. And I just have such good memories of that. Like we pretended to be like the waiters and stuff, and they brought in the food from a local place. And yeah, I think that like growing up with the 2 languages just made me inclined to look at recipes in Spanish as opposed to just like recipes that would be easier to only access, like if I was only looking at translations or in English.
Hmm.
So I really enjoyed that. And yeah, and then when I had the opportunity to add Italian, which is like 82% similar,
Uh-huh.
it was really fun, and it wasn't that difficult to kind of add on.
I'm so jealous of that. I wish I was fully fluent and especially Italian because I was living there for a little bit and I was learning it and then the minute I came back I lost it again, but it's going to be my goal to
It's
learn
really
it.
such a gift. Like I like from my parents, like I'm like, you can't even put a price on the gift. Like also my it's kind of funny, my older brother was on the
Hmm.
wait list for the school, and he went to
Oh.
regular kindergarten for a month,
Mhm.
and he made all his friends like kindergarten, and then a month into school he got off the wait list, and my mom pulled him out and put
Oh,
him in the Spanish school. And then once we had one brother in, all of us got to go.
oh, that's amazing. If I ever have kids in the future, I'm making them do that. It
Definitely worth
really,
looking into.
yeah, for sure. In the cookbook and I in our past interview I was reading, you mentioned your grandmother. Would you say she was an inspiration for you in terms of your cooking skills and now newfound success?
Yeah, I always enjoyed cooking with her. I still enjoy cooking with her.
Hmm.
Um, and she was kind of like the original recipe tester in my family. Like she has binders and binders full of recipes
Oh wow.
that and she's also the type of cook that like measures the salt. Like I do that if I'm writing a recipe, but not like typically.
Right.
And so she's really specific with it. And this is something I haven't told anyone, but I have an idea for a second book that has to do more specifically with her recipes, and like
Oh.
thinking about how they hold up in 2023, and like the generational stuff. So yeah, I haven't told anyone that, but
That'd be so interesting though. That's a
yeah,
really good idea.
and it was really fun. I actually got to collaborate with both my grandmas for this book.
Uh-huh.
So my dad's mom is the one that's more of the recipe tester. And
Okay.
so that she has a couple of recipes and mentions throughout the book, like her
Mhm.
twice baked potatoes, and there's lemon pepper broccoli that she would make for my grandpa.
Oh,
But
yum.
my other grandma, who's also a really good cook, but it wasn't as much her thing,
Hmm.
she illustrated the book.
I saw that. I saw a little comment. I thought that was the cutest thing ever.
Yeah, she's an amazing artist, and she painted watercolor. I have them right here, but these are her
They're incredible.
original. Yeah,
They add
they're
such
really cute.
character to it. They make it so unique.
Thank you. And I made them into stickers also.
Oh, that's adorable. Are you gonna sell those or do they come with the book?
I think I'm gonna like figure out how to give them out at events and stuff. I don't know that I'm gonna sell them, but
Okay. Yeah, maybe at like your book tour
yeah.
or something like that. That'd be super cute. In terms of the languages that we were speaking about before, have you found that that helps you experiencing different cuisines and cooking in the kitchen?
For sure. I mean, I feel like when I'm able to look at something in the original language, I'm able to understand it a lot more. And
Hmm.
so I always think it's like a little ironic. Like my favorite cuisines are like Thai, Japanese.
Yeah.
There's a million Chinese cuisines, but like I've never had one that I didn't like. However, I'm just never going to be able to do the firsthand, like primary source research in those languages. And
Hmm.
so to me, it's like, okay, that's a fun thing for me to experience and for me to like go to restaurants, and I don't have to like know about it completely. And like, but since I'm able to do research in Italian and in Spanish, and I also absolutely love those because the related like Latin American, Spanish, Italian cuisines as well. But it's just like top five, they're pretty much all going to be Asian cuisines. And I definitely like cook with different influences from all over the world. Like I'm not limited to the Spanish and Italian.
Right.
But I just like there's this amazing YouTube channel called Italia Squisita, and it's like all sort of sometimes it's like about a specific chef, sometimes it's a story, and it's really well made. And they'll make information about they did like a video of like the original Alfredo, like fettuccine Alfredo, and like there's so many misconceptions about it, but they're at the restaurant interviewing the person who invented it, and so it's like, yeah, I think it's really cool, and it's like a lot of the Italian chefs, and there's also I used to always watch this Mexican YouTuber. I want to say it was called Cocina para Todos.
Okay.
The woman's name was Janet, and her videos were so good, and I think she still makes them. Yeah.
Okay, I'll check her out. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. I know the fettuccine Alfredo, I learned when I was over in Europe that it's not really authentically Italian, I guess you could say. Neither is chicken parm. One of my Italian teachers had no idea what chicken parmesan was
Yeah.
until I told him.
No, the chicken parm is like crazy to them. The fettuccine Alfredo is like a little more nuanced because it was invented in Rome, but it's not like a national dish. Like it was invented at one
Right.
restaurant. So it's kind of like just because one restaurant made it does not really make it a thing. And also people get confused because it's like at the end of the day, it's like pasta in bianco or pasta al burro parmigiano, like pasta
Right.
with butter and parm. And so it's a little bit more of a fancier version of that, but that's usually something that they think of as like a when you're sick type of like home recipe, not something you would get at a restaurant. And in fact, the inventor says he made it for his like pregnant wife who was experiencing like morning sickness.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. That's so interesting. I didn't know that. No one's
Yeah.
ever given me that background before. I think when I was in Rome, I ordered cacio e pepe on repeat and then carbonara, and then that was it, just alternating.
Those are so good.
They're so good. You kickstarted your passion for food, though, through your culinary blog in high school, and then you worked at a bakery, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so how did you go from doing those things to teaching cooking classes at Williams-Sonoma? I think that's so interesting.
Yeah, it was a little bit of like a circuitous journey, but so sophomore in high school is when I really got into, I got a job at a bakery. I was like watching YouTube videos and reading cookbooks cover to cover, like practicing every day. And I did that like for years, but starting then. And then at some point during high school, I asked my local Williams-Sonoma or something. I don't remember exactly how it happened, but I got the opportunity to do like a couple cooking tutorials, like demos. I did cake decorating demos. I think I made cupcakes in one of them, but I was under 18. I was not an employee. And, it was a fun experience. And they kind of always said, okay, like when you turn 18, come get a job. And so then I did that. I guess it started like winter break of after my freshman year of college I guess is when it started. And then I did it like a whole summer and then another winter break. And basically I was a regular like sales associate. But they also had me teach the cooking classes. So they had like a cooking class once a week on the weekends. Maybe they had more, but I did one like once a week. They would give me the recipe like the day before. And sometimes it was something that I hadn't made before. And so I would have to like go home and practice and like teach it to myself before I taught it. And it was honestly such a great way to learn. Like I was probably a little in over my head, but I do think that after like going home and practicing, I was able, they always went well. And I also felt like people usually walked away with some good tips. Because a lot of like I kind of feel like whenever I'm teaching a cooking class, if if they are beginners, there are a lot of things that are going to be universal no matter what the recipe is. So even if it's not like a recipe that, I'm not making fried chicken all the time, and like that was definitely one of the ones that I like had to like go at home and like make but there's still kind of like the essential things about seasoning or getting the temperature right on the oil and salting it after it comes out, like things that kind of would be important regardless and are just like culinary literacy that I think people enjoyed all those tips. And that
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily need to be like a fried chicken expert to impart those tips.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that helped you learn as well when you were doing them kind of on the fly. I feel like that would be a little stressful for me if I was learning how to make a full fried chicken dish the night before. I have to teach it. But I didn't even know that Williams Sonoma did cooking classes. Maybe that's just universal knowledge, but I didn't know that.
It might depend on the location.
Okay. What you should do, have you gone back and taught a class now that you've had all your TikTok success and stuff?
So I haven't taught a class yet since then, but they are playing a major role in my book tour. So I'm going to at least 5 locations. I'm teaching a class at their HQ. I'm doing a lot with them, and they've been so great. They're hosting like my launch party, which I will
Oh,
definitely
yeah.
need to send you the details for if you happen to be in New York. But yeah.
Okay. Amazing. Yeah, I would love to go. I that's so great that it comes full circle too.
Yeah, no,
That must feel
it's really nice, and I think like they like that too. And so it's very like I think it's a nice like partnership because they really go hand in hand with everything that I want to do. Like, and for them, I think I'm kind of it's like a very like wholesome like I work. I went when I was in high school, and then I came back as an employee, and now I'm like so. It's very full circle, as you said.
you're the Williams Sonoma success story. I'm sure they're they're happy about it. When during that time did you have the idea for your cookbook? When did that kind of blossom?
So I had the idea my freshman year of high school, and no, sorry, college. So 5 years ago, I had the
We're all
idea.
the same.
Yeah, basically, I was in the dorms freshman year, not cooking a ton, and I was getting ready to move into my first apartment and planning that. And I was thinking like, okay, what are all the cookware? What's all the cookware I need? What are the ingredients I'm gonna have? I'm gonna have a really small budget for all of this, like just all of the above. And so I had the idea for easy recipes that would use staple ingredients, really the concept of the book. I probably was going to tailor it a little more to the college kitchen. Like I had an idea to maybe do it in chronological order with like the season starting like with the school year.
Okay.
But I had the opportunity to like basically explain my idea to a cookbook author, and in the nicest way possible, she said, it's a great idea, but it's really, really hard to get published. You're not going to make money on it, and it's probably worth just like working on your social media. And she was absolutely right at the time because I didn't have any significant social media. I had maybe a couple hundred followers on my Instagram. And so,
Okay, so she means in terms of you were kind of unknown at that time.
yeah, oh, for sure. I mean, I was really a random college student. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So I just decided to change. My blog in high school was more focused on baking. I decided to make it more focused to the college kitchen, whether that was only baking or, I mean, it had a little bit of baking if it was easy. My rule was like only like one bowl, no mixer baking. In the cookbook, it's all no mixer. The bowls are minimal. I don't know that I like specifically did one bowl, but yeah.
And I like too that your cookbook focuses on the side of science. I think that's really interesting because learning everything behind it can really help you conceptualize the dish as you're making it, and then help you understand too in terms of experimenting and doing kind of what you want. And then you were kind of able to transfer your explanation powers, or whatever the term is, for lack of a better term, into content creation. So when you talked to that cookbook author, is that when you kind of started posting the videos?
It happened a little later. So like I spent maybe about 9 months working on the new blog, and then
Okay.
COVID hit, and that's when I started making videos. I was using TikTok as like a casual user, and I saw some people's cooking videos and kind of thought, huh, maybe I could do that. And then once COVID hit
Mm-hmm.
and we were sent home my sophomore year, I started making videos like cleaning out the kitchen, because my dad was like going to pick me up and we didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
Um, and that's when I really started.
Okay. I feel like if someone told me that it was impossible to get published, that would just like fuel my fire, and I would be like, "Now I'm gonna get published."
Yeah, yeah, I don't know that I am exactly that way, but it was more just like, I, if you had asked me even before that, what's your dream job? I would have said, well, I would
Mm-hmm.
love to just like write cookbooks and kind of do like something like Ina Garten. But I also
Yeah.
kind of assumed that I would need some sort of spouse to finance that. So, um, yeah, I don't know that I took it as a huge surprise how difficult it would be to be published.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't think like I necessarily like it fueled my fire out of spite, but I think it just redirected my energy in a more productive place, because if I had been like only worried about the book at the time before I was really ready for it, then I don't think I would have gone
Mm-hmm.
anywhere.
Yeah, that's a great way of wording it. That definitely makes sense. You mentioned Ina Garten, and I in the cookbook as well. You mentioned her Barefoot Contessa cookbooks as one of your go-tos. She's not really a professionally trained chef, and she's completely self-taught, and that kind of aligns with your thought process as well, I would think. What cookbooks or other food personalities kind of ignited your inspiration and interest for food, if any?
Yeah, I like a combination of the self-taught cooks that are more like me and the professionals. So I love Ina Garten and Melissa Clark. I mean, I know Melissa Clark is a home cook and recipe tester. I actually am not sure what her professional background is in cooking, but I know she's like not working in restaurants like right now. But then I also love people like Samin Nosrat, who was like a really intense, like working in fancy restaurants at Chez Panisse, and I love her series Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat in her book, because I think it really combines like the food, the science, the cooking, and like the wonder that I try to capture. So the three of them. Also, I really absolutely love Padma Lakshmi's show,
Oh,
Taste the Nation. Yeah,
mhm.
they all really kind of capture different parts of what I hope to one day be able to emulate.
Did you meet Padma at the festival? Did you get to meet her or see her speak?
I saw her speak, but I have
Yeah.
not had the pleasure of really meeting her in person.
You should extend an invitation to your launch party, see if she comes.
Yeah, I should.
You never
Yeah,
know.
you never know.
So, diving a little bit deeper into your cookbook, something that I found really interesting in your prologue is that you said you'd never ever call yourself a chef, but a home cook. And then you mentioned that you'll never be like Dominique Crenn or Thomas Keller, but why not? You know?
Yeah, I was thinking about that a lot because I was on like a work trip recently with a bunch of other food creators, and most of them, one is a chef, like owns a restaurant. One of them like was a line
Mhm.
cook, and like I mean, I did work in the professional bakery, but it wasn't anything super fancy. I think there's a few things. I don't aspire to that. Like
Okay.
my what I'm interested in is making recipes that are delicious and accessible to home cooks. And so to me, like the professional kitchen doesn't really figure into that. I had a really amazing time on this trip. We took a cooking class at the Ritz in Paris, and it was like a really like fancy
Oh, wow.
like haute cuisine like class. And what we made was delicious, but there were
Mhm.
3 carrots of like the red carrot, the purple carrots, the orange carrots, and the white carrots, and we used 3 separate pans for
Okay.
each one. And like
Oh,
uh because God forbid the color bleeds in or something like that. And like I just like
well, that's funny.
it's
Throw it all in.
really such an art, and it was so much fun, and it was delicious. And at the same time, it's so antithetical to like how I cook, because the only thing I could think
Mhm.
of the whole time is like these dishes are going to be horrible. Like
Yeah,
um
well, that was my thought too. I hate doing
yeah.
dishes.
And so I think that it's not necessarily like being a professional chef doesn't necessarily mean you're a professional teacher, and being a professional chef could mean that you're like someone like Simi Nosrat. She's like she has it all. She's a professional chef. She's an amazing communicator. Like all of those things. But just because you
Right.
like have those chops doesn't necessarily mean you can communicate them or teach them. And I'm more worried about the communication. And also, like, I feel like as a home cook, I am in tune with like what might be difficult for another home cook. And like, yeah,
Kind of relate.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. I think that's a good distinction too. What popped out at me is so I just came off of a trip with like a lot of other media and stuff, and it was in Madison, Wisconsin. And I was learning so much about dairy farming and cheese production. So I thought it was so interesting that you met. I was reading that through your book, and I was like, oh, that's such good timing because I was just learning all about that when I came off my press trip, and they have regenerative agriculture, which was interesting me, and how they handle their produce. And you visited Italy, and you were able to kind of compare the dairy farming there to American farming practices. But I would love to get your opinion on how you think we can kind of improve the farming system here.
That's a that's like a big political question.
It's a heavy loaded
Yeah.
question.
So I don't know exactly how to answer it. I think that to me, the most important thing is if you have the time, energy, and money to get to know the people who are producing your food. So if you're able to
Mhm.
go to the farmers market and meet the people who are producing the dairy, and maybe you have the opportunity to visit a farm, I think that being more involved in the food system is always good. It's really easy to
Mhm.
be like super, super separated. Like you go to the grocery store and the carton of milk kind of doesn't feel like it has anything to do with like the soil and the people who are milking the
Right.
cows and taking care of them and stuff like that. But I don't know. It's definitely a loaded question because I think most people don't have the time or energy or interest or money to worry about that.
Yeah, yeah, no. I knew that was a loaded question going in, but I wanted some of your opinion because it is separated. We become desensitized to when we go into the grocery store who's actually behind everything that we see on the shelves. So when I was talking to all of these farmers, it was just so interesting to me and made me realize that I need to go to farmers markets more.
I love a farmers market. It's like my happy place.
No, me too. I was literally smiling ear to ear, like walking just around. People probably thought I looked a little nutty, but I was just so happy, just eating everything and walking around. I I was learning from your book too because you have a is cheese vegetarian section, and it's such a nuanced subject that I didn't really think about, but you explained it really perfectly.
Thank you. Yeah, I think people. Well, it's really confusing, I think, because at the end of the day, not everyone's going to agree. And the topic of animal rennet is just sort of nuanced. Like, is, I mean, you could also get into the discussion of like, is leather vegetarian? Like, what does vegetarian mean? Does vegetarian mean that you're just not eating meat, or are you taking it kind of a step further, more in the same vein of vegan, where it's more describing a whole ethical lifestyle?
Right.
So I'm more inclined to interpret the word vegetarian as strictly dietary, and then even if you're talking about just the diet, like, are you just talking about meat? Eggs are vegetarian in Western cultures. I know in India they don't always consider that vegetarian. Dairy is
Mm-hmm.
vegetarian. Those are animal products. So why are like the enzymes in rennet not vegetarian? It's not meat. So it's just kind of interesting where we choose to draw the line. I totally think it makes sense if there's someone who is strictly vegetarian and says, I don't want to consume things that use animal rennet, but I will eat other
Mm-hmm.
cheeses.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's really philosophical, and it comes down to how you define a lot of different things.
Yeah, I think either side kind of makes sense. It's just going to be dependent on the beliefs of the person as well. Let's go a little more general into recipes. What's your go to everyday, without fail recipe to make right now?
Ooh, um, I've been traveling so much and not cooking a ton, but I
Mm-hmm.
have been making just a plain omelet with Gruyere
Oh,
a lot,
okay.
and it's just the perfect cheese for an omelet. Like, it's so nutty and melts into it, and
What's your favorite cheese? I've been talking about cheese a lot this week because I literally went to a cheese festival this weekend, so I
oh,
gotta
I
ask.
can't decide. I that is a loaded question. Talk about loaded questions. Um,
The most controversial one I'll ask you.
well, um,
Mine is brie. Triple churn brie is my fave
okay, I can
right
tell
now.
you, not my favorite. Actually, one that I've really been liking is oh, what's it called? What's it called? Mimolette.
Ooh, is that a softer cheese or is it a
It's
hard?
like a really hard orange cheese.
Oh, love. There's one that I really want to try. It's called, I actually think I have the explanation. I have it somewhere over here. But it's called like Rush Creek, and I guess it's something that they only produce in fall, and it's only available between like 2 or 3 months. And I want to say, I might get this wrong actually. I'm just not going to explain what it is because I might get it wrong. But it's a softer cheese and it looks so good. But yeah, my life has been very cheesy lately,
Me
so I would
too.
agree. Is there a recipe that maybe didn't make the cut in your cookbook that you may have wanted to or saving for future?
Well, yes, in a lot of ways, because this book had a very specific scope, and there were a lot of recipes that just
Mm-hmm.
did not fit into the scope, which actually made it a lot easier to choose. So these recipes all had to have like a limited number of non-staple ingredients. So if there were like 10 different things that did not go along with any other recipe, that just wouldn't be in it.
Okay.
Or and just like the level of difficulty. So like I didn't add challah or pie dough because I think that those are more advanced recipes, and it was just not really in the scope of this book.
Okay. Yeah, pie dough is a little more, I guess it's a little bit harder. I've never honestly made it myself, so I can't comment on it too much. But with the book being mostly about science, is there a food fact that you think maybe most people don't know that you want them to?
Yeah, so I have a little section on why I prefer not to buy bottled citrus juice. And basically, like, when citrus juice is pasteurized, it loses all of
Mhm.
its flavor. And then the companies add in what are called flavor packs, and they're made from the same factories and companies that make like Dior fragrances, and they add back in the flavor, and then they also don't need to label them as like additional ingredients if it's like derived loosely from the citrus, but it could be totally and completely engineered. So the exception to that would be like cold pressed citrus juices that are bottled because that's not pasteurized. However, that is like so expensive, and you might as well just press it yourself if you're able to.
I don't feel like I normally use citrus juice. I try to just use regular lemons and limes and um, things like that, but I'll avoid it now that you're giving me a lot of tips. What's funny too is I just learned that there's a difference between taste and flavor. And then you said that in your book too, but it's not something that not anyone, but most people really consider because you kind of intertwine the two. Would you be able to explain the difference for those listening?
Yeah, so
Okay.
taste is really limited in scope. It's just the 5 things that our taste buds can perceive. So that's sweet, salty, sour, bitter, and umami. So if you lost your sense of smell, those are the only things that you could perceive. So the thing that's confusing is that when we talk about smell, olfaction, it's like the scientific term for smell, we're not necessarily talking about orthonasal olfaction, which is like smelling in front of you. Like you're not, it's not just that. Most of the smell in flavor comes from retronasal olfaction. So that's actually like the gases inside of your mouth while you're eating going up into your nose, the back way. So flavor is the combination of tastes with smells, whereas taste is just the 5. So you can't perceive kind of like the differences between maybe 2 similar fruits if you are holding your nose. Well, you probably can if you're holding your nose, but like if you don't have a sense of smell, whereas you might just be able to taste that it's sweet or sour.
You are great at explaining things.
I try. Thank you.
You are. So let's talk about what's next for you. The cookbook comes out on October 31st. What are you up to in the meantime?
A lot of planning for that. So there's been a lot of planning for the tour, and just everything related to the launch has been really occupying me. And as I hinted at before, like I do have an idea for another book, and this is my job, and so I definitely like have to stay on top of that. And I'm considering spending some time abroad next year. So yeah, just like a lot of things in the works and trying to get like a lot of irons in the fire.
I love that. Of course, the grind never stops. You're thinking about another cookbook while your other one's not even out yet.
Yeah.
Where are you thinking about going abroad? Is that to live or just for a few months?
I'm considering Spain and Italy. Spain would be a little easier with the visa possibilities, but we'll see. I just think that I would love to be in a different space if I am writing another book, and it might be a fun way to kind of practice my Spanish and experience different things. I didn't get to study abroad because of COVID, so.
Yeah. I feel that I was sent home when I was studying abroad because of COVID, like mid-abroad studying. So I feel that. But I do have a suggestion for a place for you to go. If you do end up going to Italy, go to Lucca. Have you been there before?
No, I have not.
Oh, it is. I've been there a few times, and every time I've gone, I just think this is the best place for writing I've been because it is so small, but they have really exquisite cuisine. They have not a ton of people. It's a very small area, but there's one specific area that you can kind of go into, and it is just so peaceful, and the weather is so nice. Obviously, not in like midsummer, but it is really calming. So, if you get the chance, go there, and it's really good to clear your mind.
I would love to. Yeah. Whether I pick Spain or Italy, it will be easier to go from there than from New York.
Yeah. Yeah, $30 flight from Spain to Italy is not bad compared to like $1,000 one here.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, so I have a short game for you if you're up for it. I basically will say 5 foods or trends, and then you'll tell me if it's a smash or pass.
Okay.
Okay, but I'm doing a fun twist this episode because it's dropping on Halloween. So
Okay.
I thought I would make it Halloween themed,
Okay. Sounds
which is
good.
okay. First one, candy corn.
Pass.
Agreed. Second one, this is kind of more of a question, but sweet or savory Halloween appetizers?
I would say in general, savory, but for Halloween, sweet.
Okay, agreed. Number 3, roasted pumpkin seeds. I never got on that train, but
I'll say smash. I have good memories
okay.
of doing that in the toaster with my mom.
Oh, cute. Yeah, my dad would always do it too, so I think that's where the nostalgia kicks in. Number 4, a caramel apple board. Have you seen that?
I haven't, but I can imagine it. I think I would
Mm-hmm.
like that. I'll say smash.
Smash. Number 5, pumpkin pie martini.
Pass.
Agreed. Number 6, popcorn balls. This is very nostalgic too.
Smash. I love anything popcorn.
Me too. And now my final question is, what's your favorite Halloween candy?
Ooh. I feel like my favorite generic Halloween candy is probably a Kit Kat.
Mm. Do you eat it like kind of like a sandwich? Like I always kind of eat the chocolate first and then eat the middle, or
I'm
do you
kind of
just
a
bite into
monster. I bite into it. I don't even separate though.
it? Treason!
I know. I know.
That is very controversial. You're going to get comments on that.
I know. I know. I mean, we shouldn't have admitted it.
Okay, actually, I lied before. This is now my final
Okay.
question for you. And this is something I ask every single guest. If there's one cooking appliance or utensil that you think everyone should splurge on, what would it be and why?
Is the key word splurge?
Yeah.
Okay. If the keyword, let me look into my kitchen. If the keyword is splurge, actually, I would say an immersion blender. It's not even a major splurge. Like, I think you can get one for like $30.
Okay.
But you can make like the best vinaigrettes with it. You emulsify so much. You can make mayo and pestos, and a lot of times it's like just more convenient than a stand-up blender because you can use whatever container you want. Especially, it
Mm-hmm.
works great with a deli container. I've been really pro immersion blender.
What's the difference between a regular blender and an immersion blender?
An immersion blender is just like the stick blenders.
Oh,
So they're like handheld, and it's basically just like a stick that has the blades at the bottom. So you can do it like
oh,
directly in a pot or in a container instead of like a
okay.
blender that is like the whole pitcher.
Oh, I need one of those.
They're really
I'm
great.
gonna, yeah, that's so smart. I have one blender here, but it pisses me off, so I stopped using it. I was using it for smoothies, and then they sent me a magic bullet, so now I'm using that.
Those are great too.
Yeah, I love those. I'm sure you can use those for pesto too, but
Oh, for sure.
yeah, I'm sure it's easier to use an immersion blender. Okay, well, thank you so much for coming on. This was super fun, and I'm glad to see you again. It was fun.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was really, yeah, really fun.
Of course. So Jeremy's cookbook is now available on Amazon. You can also follow Jeremy on Instagram or TikTok at Scheck Eats, and he'll be doing a book tour throughout the next few months. So make sure to put that on your calendars as well. Do you have to get tickets for it, or?
I believe so. In the link in my bio, you should be able to find all the information about it. So the Williams Sonoma ones have a specific link for all of those tickets, and then there are also separate events at like specific bookstores that kind of have their own system.
Hey, fellow foodies, thanks for listening. Don't forget to leave me a review. And while you're at it, make sure to follow me at livvinforfoodpod on Instagram or TikTok, or email me at livvinforfoodpod@gmail.com. Let me know what you're cooking up this week, which guests you would like to see on the podcast, or tell me your opinions on the latest viral food trend. Until next time.